Good evening. So, if you have seen my community posts on my channel, then you know I came across a interesting book which I had been looking for, and I finally found it, and it's right here. This is Hauptner's book, and Hauptner was our chef. He was actually more than our chef. Let me see if this comes through. We can see this Hauptner. This is from 1841. I'm going to turn the camera around here in a few minutes, and then I'm going to show you some of the pages in here. Second edition, 1841. That makes this book 183 years old as I'm holding this here. And Hauptner was our chef. He was the chef on the court of my third great grandfather. And that meant he cooked for everyone at the court. That was a communal affair. There was no one left out. Whoever needed lunch, breakfast, dinner, or whatever they had, they ate there. And that was in Berlin at the Prince Albrecht Palais in the Wilhelmstrasse 102. And to the right of it, when you're standing in front of the Palais, which no longer exists today because of World War II, to the right-hand side, there were two buildings which were apartment buildings, and Hauptner and one of the Strömers and other people who worked at the court lived there, and other apartments were rented out. And to the left of the Palais, on the next block over, there were stores and regular, like 3 or 4, 5-story apartment buildings with stores on the ground floor, all sorts of varieties. They had a bakery, they had a butcher there. They had a farm, actually, in one of these buildings where they were holding 2, 3 cows, milk cows, and pigs, that sort of stuff. That was quite common in Berlin in those days. So when they needed milk, for instance, they would just go over there to the farmer in that building and they would get fresh cow milk. In the morning they usually go and they keep it in the kitchen. Now, Hauptner, Ferdinand Hauptner, was the chef. But he was not just the chef, but he was the Hofküchenmeister, that's the German word. In French, it would be les grands maîtres. And at the court, basically. So that was his official title. And so he was a cook, a first-class cook, no question about it. And we were very lucky to get him. And sometimes in the 1830s, he set up one of the first cooking schools for ladies in Berlin, so the ladies could learn how to cook. We have to remember this book was originally written in 1838. And like I said, this is the second print from 1841 I've got here. And in those days, many people could still not read, or they had just a basic knowledge of reading. So cooking was passed on from the mother to the daughter, since that was back then pretty much a women's affair in our structured religious conservative environment we had throughout Europe at the time. The man was the head of the household, and the women conducted the chores, the cooking, cleaning, and the upkeep of the house and everything else. That was pretty much their primary jobs, and that stayed like this for many, many years. It wasn't until the late 1960s and 1970s that really started to change a lot from the traditional values. It was when that religious part, either Protestant or Catholic, fell out of the picture in our today's societies, that this profoundly started to change. And with capitalism, the need for women to work, the exploitation of women at lower wages and stuff like this, did the rest of it. So it was a combination, the Industrial Revolution, capitalism in itself, and then a abandoning of our traditional church or religious values coming from Catholicism or Protestants. That all had changed. So in those days, he had a cooking school he attended to. And I know from our, not documents, but from what I was told, is he had two ladies working in the kitchen at the castle. In those days, the castles or palace or mansions or what have you had basements, half basements mostly, because they needed daylight to come in. And then they had one section of the basement which usually went then all the way underground. That was the traditional storage area basement with no windows to keep the place cool, dry, and dark, basically. But the kitchen was always in the basement. Across from the kitchens, most likely, was the storage for firewood. And then right next to it was the laundry area where they would wash the laundry, because all of that needed firewood and heat and water and everything else. And that was usually on one side of the building, and they had a door, a larger door there, going out of the basement into the open area, usually the backyard. And they usually had a non-staircase going on, so it's just a sloped way down there, so they could go in with a wheelbarrow full with wood or whatever materials, potatoes, whatever they were storing in for the winter. They could easily carry in larger quantities in there. This was also true for larger one-family homes, which wouldn't classify as a mansion or as a villa, but for larger family homes, and then for multi-story tenant buildings. They were similarly constructed, except that they had no kitchen down there, but the laundry area and all of the stuff was in those buildings too, in wood or coal storing areas. Anyway, so this is where Hauptner came in. Hauptner had two children, a son and a daughter. And I believe that Hauptner was a descendant of the French Huguenots who came to Prussia or to Berlin in 1720, I believe it was. And they were granted asylum there, and they integrated quite well into the Protestant Berlin of that time in the 1720s. And he was one descendant of those French Huguenots, because we will see this here in a minute. The entire book goes through this. A lot of French cooking stuff in there, French words, rather than German, names for dishes and stuff like this, the French explanations and so far and so on. And so he had a daughter. The daughter married then a French guy in the 1850s or 1860s. And his son traveled with my third great grandfather, Strömer, and Rabe, the painter, and I forgot now the other guy who was with Reklam, to the Middle East on that trip, where my third great grandfather was gifted that Nubian boy who was 7, 8, 9 years old by the Egyptian, what are they called there? The Egyptian, well, not the king, but the governor, basically, of Egypt, Sultan, the Grand Sultan or Sultan for the Ottoman Empire. He was appointed as the governor. So he was appointed as the governor of Egypt by the Ottoman Empire, by the Sultan of Turkey there. He was in charge, and he gifted that during an audience in Egypt, well, now I forgot the name of Cairo, of course. That boy to my great-grandfather, to my third great-grandfather. So that whole entourage thing grew by one person, and they found themselves with that young boy. They named him Sabak El-Chair, and they took him with them to Germany, where Strömer and Hauptner's son became the primary guardian, so to speak, during that travel. And he didn't speak any German, of course, at that time, so they had to teach him German. And then he winded up being adopted. So they formally, my third great grandfather formally adopted him, baptized him of the name of August Albrecht Sabak Alger. I would say this must have happened then in, I think I said that before, July 1843, something like this. So this is right in the time of the book when all of this stuff transpired. And now let's take a look at some of these pages. And I read through it a little bit earlier, various different things. And what really struck me in there is the simplicity. And another interesting aspect in this is that Hauptner wrote there in 1838, when most of this was written to begin with, is that was the time when the kitchens were changing from an open fire pit with a spit, where you would do a big roast on it, like a suckling pig and that sort of stuff, in the kitchen itself, to a stove, a wood-burning stove, basically. And that is quite interesting, because he wrote in this on how to make like a roast, like a suckling pig, basically, if you have a oven when you no longer have that open fire pit. And they were using, then casseroles and that sort of stuff, and he said that meat tasted like leather when it came out of a casserole. So he had some suggestions on how to improve cooking on an oven when you no longer have a fire pit, basically. The interesting thing is this: I saw this with Stephanie at Lalande, at the Castle Lalande, is that they have the kitchen, they have that big fireplace. That was one of these open fireplaces where you would spit roast something, and they have actually put the stove in there. Today's stove, of course, doing remodeling, but this was the traditional way of cooking. Actually, was done that way, and they would have a area where usually a stone kind of a stove where they put fire underneath it, and then on top they had an iron plate, and they would just put pots on there to boil potatoes and to heat up skillets and that sort of stuff. But let's take a look at the book. Okay, so this is now the book, and you can see it was written in Fraktur. And down here we have the 1841. It was published by Hahn, the publisher Hahn in Berlin. And I have also something here, which is a cake lifter, which is about from the same time, that belonged to my third great grandfather. And this one here was made by a goldsmith in Tilsit, in the city of Tilsit, where that famous smelling cheese is coming from. But anyway, so we can see this here. Let me just see what he did here. Like I said, this book is 183 years old. So this is his foreword to the first edition. And he wrote something, and then he did a foreword to the second edition. This is dated May 9th, 1838. And the second edition was dated May 9th, 1841. So just 3 years later. Then we have the index of all the dishes. And there's a lot in there. I mean, there is tons of stuff in this here. There is nothing in here what you can imagine, and new stuff. And it has something for everyone. And the way he structured this book, here he writes about the kitchen, on how the kitchen needs to be equipped in here. And then on how the dishes are actually served, and how the dining table is set up, how you structure the buffet. And now he gets into this. He starts with the soups. And he has a total of 13 or 14 course meals in here. But you can basically, the way he structured this, you can pick anything out of here. So this is all categorized in the different groups. Let me go back to the index here. then you can see this here better. So we're starting here. So the first chapter is the soups. Second chapter is hors d'oeuvres. Third one is fish. Fourth one, from large meat pieces. So this is like the thing when you get into suckling pigs and big roasts and stuff. The fifth one is from the vegetables. So you got all sorts of vegetables in there. The sixth one, then the entrees. So this is then the different entrees they had. Fleisch, meat, fish or other things, so you can combine this. This is what I was trying to explain. Then von Mehlspeisen, that means dumplings and that sort of stuff. Roasts, then again, he gets a little bit more in that. Then we have salads, and then we have Pasteten, kalte Pasteten, Gelatinen, Chateau von Wild und anderen Fleischen, feine Sülzen, wilder Schweinskopf, Presskopf, Roulades, Pains von Wild und Rebhühner, Lässe. Holy moly, I can read this stuff here. Then we have also baking stuff, I mean, you name it. I have to read through this here. See, you got beefsteaks. Here, he describes some of this to the readers of what that is. He actually explains buffet, of what a buffet is. And an N-Buffet, that is die gespeist. Hierunter versteht man eine mit allerlei kalten Speisen besetzte Tafel, an welcher jeder Gast sich selbst nach Belieben bedient oder von welcher aus die Speisen heruntergereicht werden. This is what this says. This is a cold buffet basically, and this would be the warm buffet with warm foods in there. And then we have beefsteaks, Scheiben eines Rinderfilet, welche auf dem Rost gar gebraten werden. So that means slices of beef filet. That means the filet steaks, basically filet mignon. Welche auf dem Rost gar gebraten werden. Rost is the metal mesh they put over the open fire pit, which is basically your barbecue grill, your regular grill, basically. We would say grilling to this here. And they made it well done. They said gar, that meant well done, but this is all in here. So we're going through here, and you can see this here. I mean, this is over 800 pages. One of the first things, of course, I was interested in was to see how did he make the potato salad. How did he make in 1838 the Berlin type or Berlin style potato salad? Was it already with mayonnaise or was it without mayonnaise? And this was at page 800. Salate. That was in the salad section where he had this consumer. Here, Teltor, Rüden, Cardigan, Artischock, was that the kalte Getränke, Obst. So this is why I said this. This is going to be interesting to do a... now I got to check here again in the front to see where the salads were. This book has over 800 pages. Let me just see where I got this here. He has ice creams in here on how to make ice cream. $5.91. That's where the salads were. $5.91. Aha, von den Salaten, 9. Abschnitt, 9th chapter von den Salaten. And it starts with the regular lettuce head, basically, and then with sour cream, he has a version of it. Gebrühter Kopfsalat, this is a cooked salad, basically. I have to read this, I'm not familiar with this here. Kopfsalat à la bourgeoise. Gurkensalat, that's the cucumber salad, salad melle. That is a mixed salad. Nuts, it's Kräutersalat. That is a herb salad, celery salad, Gemüse, vegetable salad, Wurzel, root salad. Yeah, herring salad, and cabbage salad. And here, this is the Kartoffelsalat he has in here. This here. Potato salad with herring. Die mit der Schale abgekochten Kartoffeln werden rein abgeschält und in feine Scheiben geschnitten. Ebenso die Heringe, wozu noch die Salatsauce oder auch nur Öl, Essig, gehörig Salz und Pfeffer kommen. So basically what he says is you basically boil the potatoes, then you peel them and you cut them in fine slices, and you do the same thing with the herring. Then you mix this together. And he made a salad sauce here in the beginning for the lettuce head. And the way he made this is this here. Das ist das Gelbe von einem hart gekochten Ei. So you take a hard-boiled egg, just the yellow of it, and then you put that in with a tablespoon of Provençal oil. Now, this is an oil he's using. We have to remember that the vinegars back then were all wine vinegars, because they didn't have distilled vinegars yet. They didn't know what they were. And one of the better vinegars were the tarragon vinegar. And there was one, he wrote this in here, you can purchase, which was called the Parisian tarragon vinegar. And he also has a recipe in here on how you can make your own tarragon vinegar and how you could make an herbal vinegar. Say like with Bordeaux red wine type vinegar as the base, and then you add different herbs and you let that sit, and then you strain it out through a towel and that sort of stuff. So he explains this. And here the only difference here is that he specifies parsley, and you have some tarragon in there, pimpernelle. I'm not quite sure what that is. Half a tablespoon of mustard, etwas gröblich, and then pepper and salt. It said a lot of salt. And then another 5 tablespoons of Provençal oil. This is the one thing I have not found out yet what Provençal oil is, because here he writes that oil is this word here, right here, oil or Provençal oil, which is this here. And he spells this Provenceal. And that is oil, O-E-L, we would say. So this is some herbal type oil they had. So they had regular oil for cooking purposes, like a salad or vegetable oil, most likely. And then they had this Provençal oil, which was some better oil already. And then I have to figure out of what mustard they actually had in 1838 in Berlin. And my intentions is to go through this because there's so many recipes in here which are quite interesting. And of course the milk back then, since they got that directly from the farm, was neither pasteurized nor was it homogenized, as it's none of the stuff what we got. So this all tasted quite different in what he has in here. And he has like at least 10 different omelette forms in here. Very interesting varieties I have not seen like this here. And then of course the ice creams are gonna be in the cakes and all of the stuff. And bread he got in here. So there's so many different things in here. And then oysters, he's discussing on how to make oysters. This is quite interesting to think about it, on how they were getting oysters, fresh oysters, in Berlin in 1838, because they were just starting with the railroad at this time, which meant that everything had to be moved on a river by a barge, basically, or by an ox cart, or by a horse with a cart, or by a donkey. Basically, this is how the stuff moved, but they were able to actually get that fresh seafood moved through. And then I found this in here. Someone left a little paper in here that looks like it. This was when Saxony was still a kingdom, and Romania was it says it down here, I don't know if you can see it, can see das königlich-sächsische und königlich-rumänische Hoflieferanten, Versandgeschäft, Leipzig, Plagwitz, 20 mark, this must have been gold mark, and that would have put us into probably 1871 to 1914 in that time frame. This is how old that little paper is. And it says here, Austria, Österreich, Ungarn, Austria, Hungary. And then Deutschland was already unified. So this was shortly after 1871. This is just Trikotagen und Strumpfwaren. This is a mail order business from those days. They would send you a catalog for free if you requested it. And they were located in Leipzig. They had underwear. All of the typical underwears for back then. Seidenstoffe. And auf der anderen Seite, that's the same thing here. Yeah, I don't know. This was like a business card. I found this in here that was in the book here. Interesting. So, but this is kind of what I would like to go through and explain this here. Here he makes potatoes with an herbal sauce, à la maitre d'hôtel. So whatever that meant, I guess the French chefs or les grands maîtres who are watching this video, hopefully they may have some ideas. So if you know some of the stuff, please feel free to comment. I would be excited about this, to get some feedback and some ideas from you if you have seen this. There is so much stuff in here of what you can cook, and it is game, it is fish, seafood, and I mean, you name it. And then all the different meats, and of course a lot of the stuff, crepes and omelets and breakfast stuff. Well, I hope you got as excited as I did. This is a old book, 183 years old. This is what you're looking at. It survived at the time. The only page which got a little bit damaged is this here, the first page of the index. You can see this, we put a little bit of tape in here to keep it together. Well, with that, I wish you a great night, and we will see you.